The Eternals. Eternals is the story of the Eternals, who were sent to Earth in order to safeguard it thousands of years ago. They're meant to protect the Earth from something called the Deviants, which are supernatural beings bent on killing them all. The Eternals are meant to destroy the Deviants all the way up until their extinction. And they succeed one day in that regard, but years later they end up running into another one who is seemingly more powerful than what they've encountered before. The Eternals are then sprung into action to investigate and whether or not the Deviants have returned, and we've got our movie. I'll start off by saying that this movie was ambitious and I really enjoyed the storytelling. There are plenty of characters to learn about in this 2-hour, 37-minute runtime, and more importantly, each of them has this grand piece in this larger story that's being told here. And they go about that journey in their own unique ways, which made everything really novel and really refreshing. Because oftentimes there's a lot of new information to learn about each of these characters, but the movie does so in such a way where it doesn't feel like it's too much to digest or too dense. And what really brings us all home is the underlying story here about the human connection, and hypothetically what would happen if an eternal being was exposed to it. What would happen if eternal beings lived on Earth, lived among us, experienced the best and worst of us? Fun question I walked out of this movie thinking about a lot, and I think the story did a great job of posing and answering that question at the same time, about how powerful the human condition can be on even the most eternal of beings. Also, there are 2 post-credit scenes, so stick around till the very end of the credits for that. We'll start off with what I liked about this movie. The storytelling was excellent. I think a great way to sum up this movie is it's not what you say, but how you say it. This movie does a great job of how you say things. Chloe Zhao is the most recent director of the Academy Award for Best Director, and I think she did this movie justice. And I say that for 2 different reasons. One, I think the movie does a great job of examining the human condition and just how powerful it is. When I say human condition, I mean the whole idea of life, death, loss, grief, love, happiness, the best and worst of humanity that it has to offer, and being exposed to it and how it changes you as a being. In the case of the Eternals, they live amongst humans and experience the best and worst of them, and the movie does a great job of showing how it changes and alters their perception of their own place in all of this and what they do about their existence. Does it change what they do and how they act? It was a really fascinating idea that they explored well in this movie, and I found myself enjoying it quite a bit. And the second was, although the movie's runtime was long, I never really felt that I was bored to the point where I was ever really annoyed. There's always new information to learn about their characters, the larger story at hand, where they come from, why they're there, what they're fighting for, and how that all changes as the movie evolves. The manner in which the action scenes and the deeper storytelling scenes are told were done quite excellently. The movie's really quick and exciting with the action scenes as you'd expect them to be, but it also is very patient and very methodical when it comes to telling the deeper story within it, and I thought that was a really nice pace. Which brings me into my next main point about this movie, which the pacing I thought was quite strong. Whenever a movie is over 2 hours, I get really worried, because if a movie is that long, I think, okay, if it's boring, that's going to be a problem, because there's nothing worse than sitting through a really long movie that is also really slow. And I didn't think that the Eternals ran into that problem for a lot of the reasons I mentioned earlier. The movie is novel and entertaining enough to the point where you might only think about how long the movie is once throughout it. I know I did. And so with that, if you walked out of this movie and you told me that the movie did feel too long, I wouldn't blame you at all. The build-up for the movie is quite long. It takes a considerable amount of time getting us acquainted with the Eternals and their overarching story, along with some other really big main complexities that I can't talk about here. And lastly, I enjoyed the diversity amongst the Eternals. Each of them had their own unique abilities that were never quite like the other, and I always enjoy it when a whole team can just pool their talents together in order to get shit done and accomplish one larger goal. It makes it feel like more of a puzzle that they need to solve rather than just eradicating a certain type of being. It's really refreshing, and the novelty within that makes it really exciting when they face their enemies, because you never really know how exactly they're going to go about accomplishing their mission and taking down their next foe, or solving larger problems at hand like the ones that they have to solve within this movie that I won't give away because no spoilers. Now, what about the cons with this movie? There's only one major con I could think of, but it was a very big one. I wasn't a fan of the character development or really the writing. I think it hurt the overarching story. Back to what I was saying earlier, this movie does a great job of adhering to the mantra of it's not what you say, but how you say it. Although this movie does a really great job of how you say it, it doesn't do a great job of what you say. And how that translates to the movie, I just thought the character development and the dialogue was not very strong. And there are many characters within this movie, so it's pretty likely that you won't like all of them or everything or what they all say, so that's okay. But the movie distinctly makes this reference at one point, talking about learning from past mistakes. That's all been a theme we've been exposed to throughout our lives, which is a strong message, and I'm glad they put that into the movie. However, when you combine that with the way in which the characters evolve as the movie goes on, it makes some of them feel really weak, and it really drags down the movie and hurt my enjoyment of it. So my friends, at the end of the day, I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. It was a great movie, and I highly recommend seeing it. And I actually think you'll probably benefit from seeing a second time just to really take in all of the nuance within it, so keep that in mind. Friends, have you seen Eternals? What did you think of it? You know the comment section is, let me know. Thanks so much for watching another Bankrupt Hippo movie review. Click right here if you like this and want to see more. I've been Bryce, and until next time, have a great day.